about A-levels, first of all, just to sort of, you know, you were boffin, weren't you? I bet you got really good A-levels.
I was certainly not boffin. I think that's an insult to be called a boffin.
And what were you? What would you be your teacher's pet? A nerd? A high achiever? An overachiever?
Oh, well, I'll go with high achiever. I'll go with that. I think I worked too hard. I definitely worked too hard. The new me would have been much more rebellious. But yeah, I was a bit square.
I was very square, yeah. I got 5 A's.
What, at A-level?
Yeah. I know how to 3 A's, 2 B's. 5 A's at AS and then 3 A's, 2 B's.
No one does 5 A-levels.
Well, we were the guinea pig year that had to, and then they've changed it, or they change the system every 5 seconds.
What I'm really glad is that most of the media has actually resisted the temptation to show us loads of pictures of screeching girls.
Jumping in the air. Yeah. Isn't that tomorrow's photographs where they would jump in the air with bits of paper? I hate that.
Yeah, it's so cheesy and stereotypical. They always used to be girls, beautiful girls.
Yeah, you can almost play results day bingo, can't you? You know, didn't get the grades you want, the clearing, you know, some kids are doing better than others, and the scores are worse, the scores are better. It's because of
grade
COVID.
Inflation.
Yeah. I mean, you know, and then of course on A-level results day, everyone waits. It's a national treasure. It's almost like, you know, the pinnacle moment of any results day is the Jeremy Clarkson tweet.
Oh, what's he tweeted?
Every year he does this. Every year there is the Clarkson tweet. It's almost as big as Ed Balls Day, but every year he points out that he basically got naffle in exams.
And everything will be all right.
And yet, you know, so I think his tweet today was, I failed all my A-levels, but now I own a pub. You're welcome to come and have a pint or something like that. You know, a good little plug.
I tell you what, I live quite near Clarkson, and I really hope not too many people take up that invitation, because there's already very, very, very long queues to his farm.
He started making his own cider now, so that's something that sort of piques my interest.
What could possibly go wrong?
What could go wrong? Do you know, I bought some cider the other day in Devizes with my other half, and from a local guy who just sort of makes it in a shed around the back of a farm. Proper stuff, you know. And they were in these sort of plastic bags, and it's been a kind of hot week. And
cider in a plastic bag?
Well, that is how proper cider should come.
This is next level.
I'll take you to all the best places, don't you worry. And so they were sitting on his kitchen counter, and they've started sort of expand exponentially in the hot weather to almost the point of explosion. Anyway, he had a glass of one the other day, and he said he thought he had taken drugs. He was sort of seeing pink rabbits. And,
oh, wow. That sounds good stuff.
That is the proper stuff. That is how cider should be done.
Headache, though.
Yeah, that's true. Although I kind of think it's one of your 5 a day. If cider vinegar is a health product, then it's kind of like
health product,
it's
Alex.
the step between apple juice and cider vinegar. It's got to have health benefits.
I have my doubts about that one. So I went to university at Bristol, and that is a big cider area.
Yeah, you must know the Corrie tap.
Oh, the Corrie tap, the headaches after going to that place, because the cider there, you're only allowed to buy it in
half pints.
Yeah, little portions, very, very wisely so, because oh my. Well, you'll end up in the Avon Gorge, having mistaken where the bridge is if you have too much of that.
I'm going canoeing this weekend, of all things, in the Wye Valley. I love the Wye Valley, sort of the outskirts of the Forest of Dean, near to where I was brought up. And you can go down the River Wye and pull your boat up by this one pub that just has one of those old blackboards with sort of scratched little local ciders on it and all the different...
Oh, sounds lovely. And, dreamy.
Yeah, pull up halfway, you know, sort of a nice gentle paddle down the River Wye, and then stop for a few ciders, and then... I don't know, zigzag down like you're a gondolier on acid to get to the finish line. So I'm looking forward to that. It'd be nice to get into the wilds. Meanwhile, let's talk about depressing things, because, hey, that's our industry. That is what we do now. So, I mean, look... I want to talk to you about this story, which is the fact that judges now are saying rioters should be charged with riot instead of violent disorder, inventing new punishments as they go along, so they can be jailed for up to 10 years instead of a maximum of 5. Now, what amazes me is when Zakir Starmer first came into power, he rolled out James Timpson, didn't he, who's his prisoner's czar. And James Timpson is big on the rehabilitation of prisoners and was saying that basically a lot of people in prison just don't need to be there. You know, it might be that they've got a drugs problem, an alcohol problem, mental health issues, that they, you know, had been disengaged from society, that these people are far better off actually being given jobs, like in his, you know, cobblers and key cutters, and actually having productive lives as part of society. What is different about this lot that they don't fit the, oh, let's give them jobs and make them productive in society, and instead they got to go away for 10 years?
I mean, I think this is absolutely grotesque. And, you know, there's an example today This individual has been charged, so we don't know any details and we can't go into any details, but it's widely reported that a 15-year-old boy is the first to be basically made an example of under these new charges. I have a son who's only just turned 17, and the idea that if he made one mistake and got a bit hot-headed, you know, at a time of all sorts of crazy stuff happening in his neighbourhood, and went out on the rampage and did some bad things for one night that hopefully didn't really truly harm anybody in any kind of long-term fashion, the idea that he might have to pay with 10 years of his life behind bars, I find absolutely obscene. Now, at that age, they would go to a young offenders institution, and frankly, I would have thought a few weeks in a young offenders institution would be more than enough.
It'd knock the fear of God into them.
It's just, look, this is just wrong. And I'm actually all in favour of tough justice, generally. I think a lot has gone wrong in our country for the precise opposite reason, that we've not had tough justice, and not only has justice not been tough, it's been very slow. But I don't think it's right to make political points with children, and I don't think it's right to be grossly disproportionate in sentencing. When you look at the type of criminals that are routinely allowed to walk away with no custodial sentence at all, and I am talking about people who have killed people. I am talking about paedophiles. It is quite routine for those who make paedophilic images to not have any time in jail. That is completely normal. How can that, which is the most obscene kind of harm to little children, possibly be less serious than someone who goes on a bit of a rampage and maybe bashed a police car?
I mean, I think that, you know, without a doubt, if you're there sort of setting fire to a hotel with humans in it, you're an absolute scumbag and go away for a long time.
You're an arsonist. If you're put lives at risk, for sure.
But the thing is, if you're kicking in the window of Lush and stealing some bath bombs because you've gone a bit tonto, because you've gone away with, you know, the madness of the crowd, if you will, 10 years in prison is a bit crazy. And what I don't understand is every time I go to, you know, the tube station now, there's someone outside with a lanyard saying, please give us money so kids don't stab each other. They need youth centres so they don't stab each other. So why aren't we giving youth centres to these people so they don't kick in the window of Lush? I mean, there is a total volte-face, as far as I can tell, between what James Timpson said, which is locking people up for a long time, when actually there are social issues underneath what's happened, is totally the wrong thing to do. And this was one of his sort of, you know, Sir Keir Starmer's flagship policies, actually, that he wanted to die. We haven't got enough prison space, we're going to release a third of them because they shouldn't be there in the first place. Meanwhile, these people, you know, disorder, right, you go away for 10 years.
So
make it make sense.
I think this speaks to the utter shock in Downing Street at the loss of control that they have had in their very early weeks as a new government. You've got a bunch of people in there who have never been in government before. They've got cabinet ministers who have no experience whatsoever of running departments. And in the early days of their new administration, they have found themselves plunged into a national crisis that prompted no less than Elon Musk to say the UK is heading for civil war. Can you imagine the sheer gasping horror of being the Prime Minister, the Deputy Prime Minister, the Home Secretary, as you watch the country that you have been plotting for years to run basically going into flames? Because that's what they've presided over, and they made it a whole lot worse with Keir Starmer's interventions about it all being down to far-right thuggery. And so now, in some kind of reactionary response, they want to make sure this never, ever happens again. And, you know, a Conservative government, you can imagine doing this as a matter of routine. You know, we're the party of law and order, we're going to crush this and so on. I don't actually think the Conservatives would have made some of the mistakes that have been made recently anyway. But this is an attempt to make sure it never happens again. What it's not an attempt to do is to direct all the intellectual energy into why it happened. It shouldn't be treated as simply a law and order problem.
You shouldn't be treating the symptom, you should be treating the cause. You know, you mentioned two things I want to pick up on. One is Elon Musk, because I'm speaking to his dad at 9 o'clock. His dad's on the programme. I'm going to go to the Fountainhead and find out all about that man who's frankly become the most powerful man on earth. One thing that delights me about all the leftists turning against Elon Musk, at one point he was their darling, wasn't he? Because, this is the guy who himself said he was a soft Democrat. And he was basically creating, through his genius, all of the stuff that they say the world needs. Electric vehicles, better communications, so remote communities and war-torn communities can, all speak to each other. He was the darling. He was there to save the planet. Then he went, I like free speech. So now he's the devil. I really do. The shift is quite remarkable. But no, I mean, it is absolutely crazy what's going on. It is a two-tier system. The other thing you said that I want to pick up on is you talked about, they've really screwed it up since being in power. And I think that they've done things, you're right, that the Conservatives wouldn't have done. I think coming out and saying far right that first time actually amplified the situation. It was an accelerant.
Absolutely inflamed people.
Massive mistake there. And it's just been rubbish ever since. I think it was also kind of genius. I think he did it for very cynical reasons, to throw a grenade into the right wing of politics and say, you deal with this terminology and have your fights between you during the leadership debate. But looking at some of these people who now sit in cabinet, it makes you long for the madness of the Conservative Party, because a lot of these people, I mean, it was very easy being sort of, beloved gobshites when they were on the opposition benches.
Are we even allowed to use that word at this time?
Are we allowed to use a word that way? Are we?
There's a long pause there.
Yes, we are.
Contemplate whether we're allowed to call people gobshite.
I have approval. We've just done it about twice now.
Right.
But it's, it was all very well sitting on opposition benches, getting your mug into women's magazines, being cock of the walk, being the gobshite, calling people scum, and saying all these sort of threatening things. I'm going to chuck people under a bus. It was just sort of like rude and swaggering, and very easy doing that when you sit on the opposition benches.
And all they can say is that they are out of their depths. All they can say is, I am absolutely determined to ... fill in the gaps. That's all they ever say. I'm determined to do this, whatever. Usually it's about smashing the vile gangs, the people smuggling gangs. How's that working out? I don't know whether we may be talking about that later, but 5,000 people later that have come over the channel. I don't think those criminal gangs have been smashed yet.
Sorry.
They've not even been chipped away at.
Sorry, Keir, your stormtroopers have no legal authority in foreign jurisdictions.
I mean, you would have thought that they'd at least had the imagination to have set up one gang-smashing operation in the early days of the administration, just to show that this can actually be done, but none have happened.
No. I mean, it's they don't have a plan for anything apart from, it's now sort of squidged out, hasn't it, that Rachel Reeves has sort of been laying the foundations for taxing us to smithereens come October.
Oh, surprise, surprise.
Yeah, I was chatting with my accountant earlier. She'd seen me pop up on YouTube. Yeah, she'd seen me pop up on YouTube. Thought, I'd better give Alex a ring. And I was like, thank God you called, because I might need your help. But no, it's going to just be an absolute mess. But to fall out with someone like Elon Musk, he didn't sort of fall out with him. Elon Musk sort of waded in his Elon-y style. But the whole world is looking at our country going, what is going on? And actually, the one thing that is a positive out of that, I don't like Britain being the laughing stock of the world. I don't want people looking at this country going, it's gone so absolutely mental, I'm never going to set up a business there. Why would I?
Or even travel advisories for tourists to come here. I mean, tourism is a massive industry for us. We don't want foreign governments saying,
how's that growth policy going?
Actually, we're putting you in the same category as, Burma or something, because people are rampaging around. Yeah.
But the only positive that I can draw from this, and I'm a sort of cider glass half full kind of girl, is that at least the eyes of the world are on Sir Keir Starmer, because if he now went above and beyond, the optics are gonna look terrible. Do you know what I mean? It's sort of like, when people start looking at you going, that might be a bit heavy-handed. Yeah. It kind of helps when other countries are calling this out.
Well, let's see what happens to this 15-year-old boy.
Right.
I think that is a really important test case. And there are a couple of other test cases coming up, one of which we talked about yesterday, involving people who tweet things that turn out to be not precisely accurate, and despite deleting them 2 hours later, still find themselves chucked in a police cell. This is very, very dark, I think, as we were saying yesterday. And you're right, I hope that a lot of people are watching Although equally, let's hope that Keir Starmer doesn't have some kind of weird thrill out of that.
Oh gosh. What's going on in his dungeon? Right, we're going to take a short break.
Wanna know.
No one wants to know. We might end up in it.